He laughed when he saw me walk into that conference room, not even trying to hide it. I remember the sound clearly, that short, sharp chuckle people make when they think they already know how a story ends. He leaned back in his chair, folded his arms, looked me up and down, and said, "So, you're really going to handle this yourself?" Like I was a kid who wandered into the wrong building. Yeah, that happened. And in that moment I realized he didn't see me as a threat. He didn't even see me as an equal. He saw me as something small, something he could step over without slowing down. That was his first mistake. Let me back up a bit, because stories like this don't start in the room where everything explodes. They start long before that, in all the quiet moments where people learn how to underestimate you. I'd spent years being the invisible one in that company, the person who did the work, fixed the messes, stayed late without being asked, while guys like him collected credit like it was loose change. He was loud, polished, confident, always surrounded by people nodding along to whatever he said. I was the one people described as nice, which is corporate code for harmless. When the conflict started, it was subtle. A comment here, a joke there. Little digs wrapped in humor, so if you called them out, you looked sensitive. Relax, I'm just kidding. You know the type. Then came the meeting where he presented my project as his own, standing there like a proud father while I sat at the end of the table feeling my stomach sink. I told myself to let it go. I always did. I told myself keeping the peace mattered more than being right. That was mistake number 1 on my end. Things escalated when the contract fell apart. It was a big one, the kind that could make or break careers, and when it went sideways he needed someone to blame. Guess who that was? Suddenly my name was everywhere, attached to problems I didn't cause. He cornered me one afternoon, smiled that tight little smile, and said, "Look, this is just business. Someone's got to take the hit." He said it like he was doing me a favor, like being sacrificed was some kind of growth opportunity. I went home that night furious, replaying every conversation, every moment I'd stayed quiet when I shouldn't have. And somewhere between midnight and too much coffee, something shifted. I realized I didn't actually owe him my silence. I didn't owe him my fear. And for the first time I decided I wasn't going to disappear to make someone else comfortable. So I started preparing. Quietly. I pulled emails, saved messages, documented timelines. Every sideways comment, every instruction that contradicted the last one, every moment where he set me up to fail. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't threaten. I didn't posture. I just listened, watched, and collected the truth piece by piece. And the whole time he kept underestimating me. He joked about how I'd probably lawyer up and cry to HR. He said I didn't have the backbone for a real fight. He said I should be grateful he was even talking to me. The confrontation came faster than I expected. A formal review meeting, glass walls, neutral smiles, leadership present. He walked in confident joking with everyone completely relaxed. I walked in calm, not because I wasn't scared, but because I'd already accepted the worst-case scenario. Funny thing about that, once you stop fearing the fall, you stop shaking. He started talking first, laying out his version of events, polished and rehearsed, painting himself as the responsible one and me as the weak link. He used words like concerned and disappointed, which somehow felt worse than yelling. Then he looked at me and said, "I think it's best if you explain yourself." There it was, the setup, the moment he expected me to fold. Instead, I smiled, just a little, and I said, "Sure. But before I do, I think we should look at the whole picture." You could feel the room change. He frowned, confused. I pulled out my notes, my emails, my receipts. One by one, I walked them through what actually happened. Calmly. No insults, no emotion, just facts. Dates, direct quotes, decisions he made and then denied making. The room went quiet in a way that felt heavy, like everyone was holding their breath. He tried to interrupt me, laughed it off at first, said I was misinterpreting things. Then his voice got sharper. He leaned forward, pointed at me, said I was being dramatic, that I didn't understand how things worked at his level. I remember looking at him and thinking, "You're scared, now you just don't know it yet." When I finished, there was a long pause. One of the senior managers asked him a question, then another. Simple questions, direct ones. He stumbled, just a little. enough for everyone to notice. The confidence cracked. The jokes stopped. He started contradicting himself, and I could see it on his face, that realization that this wasn't going the way he planned. The final blow wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was one sentence from someone who'd been quiet the entire meeting. "Why didn't you disclose this earlier?" he asked. And suddenly the spotlight wasn't on me anymore. It was on him. He opened his mouth closed. It tried again. Nothing came out that made sense. By the end of that meeting, the narrative had completely flipped. I wasn't the problem to be managed. I was the person who'd been covering for someone else's incompetence. He avoided my eyes as people filed out. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt relieved, like I could finally breathe again. But here's the part that still gets me. Later that day, he pulled me aside. No audience, no swagger, just quiet bitterness. He said, "You didn't have to embarrass me like that," and for a split second I almost apologized. Old habits die hard. Then I realized something important. Telling the truth isn't humiliation. It only feels that way to people who've been lying. In the weeks that followed, things changed fast. He was moved out of his role quietly without announcements. People started asking for my input, really listening this time. And I had to sit with a strange mix of emotions. Satisfaction, sure. But also anger that it took this much just to be seen as competent. That I had to prove I wasn't weak instead of him proving he was strong. The ending isn't a clean fairy tale. He didn't vanish. He didn't apologize publicly. Life doesn't work like that. But he lost something important that day. Control over the story. And I gained something even more important. My voice. So here's why I'm telling you this. Not because I think I'm special or brave or some kind of hero. I'm not. I stayed quiet too long. I doubted myself more than I should have. But if you've ever been talked down to laughed at, dismissed because you didn't look the part or sound the part, I want you to hear this clearly. Being underestimated is painful, but it's also power if you know how to use it. Let me know what you think. Was I right to handle it the way I did, or did I cross a line? Have you ever watched someone get exactly what they deserved after thinking they were untouchable? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. And if you've got your own story about being overlooked, judged, or written off, share it. Sometimes the quietest voices have the most to say.